Imagine taking a consumer DNA test to learn something about your family's ancestry, but instead finding out that the dad who raised you is not your biological father. This happened to me at age 53, and it was the surprise of my life. So don't go spitting in a tube and sending your DNA away without heeding a few warnings first, because you too may receive a surprise you were not expecting. Misattributed parentage discovered through DNA tests is no longer rare. 1 in 5 Americans have taken these tests, and approximately a quarter of these people have discovered a relative about whom they were not previously aware. DNA tests have both torn apart and reunited families. They have upended our definitions of family. They have uncovered family secrets. Privacy expectations have been eroded, if not obliterated. So spit in a tube and blow up your life. I discovered that I'm the product of a one-night stand my mother had in 1962. She went from here to Seattle to visit her cousin who was in university there. They went to a party. My mom met a man. They had a dalliance. The stars aligned and I was conceived. No one suspected that I wasn't my dad's. Both of my fathers are white. My mom and I are brown. My mom is an immigrant from the Philippines, the most Catholic country on this planet. My dad's family traced their ancestry back to an English monarch. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school from first grade through Jesuit college. I served on the board of one of the biggest Catholic churches in Washington, D.C. I raised my kids Catholic. I even was a Eucharistic minister. When I received the results of this DNA test I took, which was gifted to me, I checked the addressee twice. This DNA test indicated that I was half Southeast Asian and half Ashkenazi Jew. I've never met a Jew Lapina before. Have you? My birth certificate father had passed away years ago. When I confronted my mother, she said, "Oh, those DNA tests aren't very reliable." I said, "Mom, did you forget that I'm an attorney who helped get a man off of death row based on DNA evidence?" She burst into tears. She wailed, "It was a 50-50 chance that you were your dad's." So I spent a year searching for my biological father. Finally, a first cousin on the 23andMe website reached out to me. He agreed to ask all of his uncles if any of them had lived in Seattle in the 60s, but his hopes were slim. He asked his 86-year-old, unmarried, heretofore childless uncle if he had ever been to Seattle or lived there. His uncle replied, "Yes, I was a football coach at the university there in the 60s. He agreed to take a test, and the test indicated a 100% match that he was my dad. I have interviewed hundreds of people with stories like mine for a book that I'm writing about this, researching the impact of this kind of discovery on people and helping them navigate this sometimes fraught terrain. I heard many stories of people discovering that their next-door neighbor was their dad. Or the worst story I heard was a man who discovered that the priest who married his parents was his biological father. And fertility doctors frequently enhance the sperm of their patient's husband with their own, without consent, resulting in hundreds of children. This practice is now illegal in several states. Half-siblings are emerging from those unions with increased regularity, some of them married without knowing the truth. And students who needed money while they were in school donated sperm and are horrified to discover that they've fathered dozens of children who now want to meet them. They were promised anonymity, and no one could have anticipated how relatively easy it would be for their offspring to find them one day. So DNA discoveries can be heartbreaking or wonderful. I was lucky. My story is unusual. My biological dad played on one NFL football team. Yes, ours, Washington. He also appeared on the big and small screen in numerous shows I had watched over the course of my life. Spartacus, Matlock, Columbo, Norma Ray, I rewatched them all. I also watched a 60 Minutes summit about him and read a Sports Illustrated article about him because he was known as the best horse handicapper at the Del Mar racetrack. So maybe I'll hit it big at the races one day. No one takes these tests and expects to blow up their lives. The testing companies do not sufficiently warn users of the frequency of misattributed parentage. They could display more compassion and certainly could provide support. They're simply exposing the truth, which is by no means illegal, but they could do it a bit differently. So I have 5 pieces of advice for you before you open this Pandora's box of consumer DNA testing. 1, know that you may become a genetic informant on your entire bloodline. My DNA is now in the system, and it may be subpoenaed, so my relatives have to stay on the straight and narrow. And some of the testing companies will cooperate with law enforcement even without a subpoena. Familial DNA in databases can implicate me in criminal investigations, even if I'm innocent. 2, you may experience grief from a DNA test. When a family member dies, people expect you to grieve. But when you find out that your dad is not your biological father, people say things like, well, you're still the same person. That wasn't true, at least for me. I felt disoriented and untethered, and I needed to grieve. I also needed to find a way to forgive my mother in order to move on. I realized that pregnant women who are unmarried a generation ago or 2 didn't have the same alternatives we have today. It's harder to forgive in the face of continued denials about DNA test results. Maybe your parents were trying to protect you or themselves. In any event, I implore you to respond with compassion and love before you react to any DNA test discovery in your life. 3, consider the wide-ranging privacy implications of a DNA test. Your DNA is arguably your most personal of information. It may be sold by the testing company or used in research. Your employer may find out about the health aspects of your DNA tests. So read the privacy policies if you want to protect yourself. And if you're holding on to a family secret, consider who you want to expose it, you or a DNA testing company. 4, if you think you need life insurance or long-term health care insurance, try to buy it before you take a DNA test. It is not illegal for these types of insurance companies to deny you coverage based on what you learned from a DNA test. Sometimes the law takes more time to catch up with science, I'm ashamed to say, as a lawyer. 5, know that you need not navigate this journey alone. There are numerous support groups now for people like me. There are therapists being trained in this area, books, documentaries, and articles that can help you navigate such issues as, how do I approach a family member who doesn't even know I exist? Or legal issues like changing your name or changing your will. Help is available. Remember that you get to decide what you do with the results of a DNA test. You can share them with others, especially if it includes health information or not. We need not be defined by our parents' actions. Blood doesn't necessarily make a family. Love does. I'm enjoying getting to know my newly found family members, and my bio dad and I met frequently and talked on the phone about every week before he died this past November. My relationship with my dad had been complicated, and I had another chance at a healthy daughter relationship. It really fed my spirit. Whatever you learn can present an opportunity for growth. This lifelong Catholic is exploring Judaism, and it is expanding my perspective. Whatever you learn can present a vista for growth. It depends on how you frame it. I came away with new people I grew to love. I advise you to pay attention and consider some of the warnings I've given. Share them with others. And above all, be kind to anyone involved in a DNA test discovery, including yourselves.